All right. Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to do this. It feels like a year ago since I've seen the movie, since it has been. But I mean, that's it's kind of, I think, weird but also cool that, obviously you made it more than a year ago. So you have that
And a
period of
half years ago. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
so you
been
have
a
that
while
period of
ago.
like with any movie, at a festival or a year later, I haven't thought about it in a while, to then talk about it, to then have another year, to then go, oh, well, I guess it's interesting to talk about, but also that the festival itself thought highly of it enough to want to have it come back is a nice, I think, feather in the cap.
Yeah, I mean, I think they thought highly of all the films that they had last year. So I
Yeah,
think each film sort of came back. It's nice. I mean, festivals are sort of, it's such a celebration of film. And I think as we've all learned, it's very hard to celebrate in isolation or without a congregation.
yeah.
So it's nice to kind of all come together and get to see it. It'll be nice to see it with an audience. I haven't done that yet.
Oh yeah, no, I think especially since a lot of things are our firsts again, the first time you're watching things with people who you're not related to, or your first time in a
Yeah,
movie theater, or like,
totally.
the room is enclosed. I haven't done that in a long time. Like whatever the thing is. So I think festivals have their place like that, because there was a year of just like sitting at home and doing them. And there's good and bad to that, but I don't think you get the same like celebration of film like you were talking about. I think you need to be sort of with other people and go, what did you think? Oh, you thought, okay, I thought the exact opposite. Like that kind of back and forth is very like, oh, this is film.
Yeah, and just to feel people's sort of nonverbal, uh, you know, how the film hits them is some of the most important work a film can do. Because
Yeah.
it's not always how we talk about it or how we talk about it with others, but how we experience it.
Yeah. And I mean, this one's a good example of that because of how emotional it is and how it sort of hits at emotions that are, I think, harder to portray in a movie. It's very easy to do, someone has a gun. Oh no. We all understand that emotion, but like parenting and relationships are way messier and way more complicated, and people have way different perspectives about them. So I think if you're sitting there and everyone's connecting to something, you've really, found something that works.
Yeah.
And then just sort of going back, what first attracted you to the script?
Well, it was really well written. And I think Sabrina is a really interesting writer, director. She worked really hard on the script,
Hmm.
and I think that you don't really get to see these types of films about parents. I think a lot. Obviously, there's a lot of narrative and stories around that sort of transformational time in someone's life, like how clumsy it is to
Yeah.
become a parent, what you lose. But we don't get to hear a lot of the stories of like how to reclaim your dreams, you
Hmm.
know, like how to also be a parent, how to be a completely different body, but also how to still, you know, find your passion, and your joy. And the journey of that is actually very clumsy and can
Yeah.
be full of trauma triggers, and like it's not the easiest thing in the universe. And I think particularly just in the narrative of single mothers, if Dolores was a man, the idea of her leaving her kids to pursue a dream is like so fucking normal.
Oh yeah.
Like, oh, what? The father left? Whatever. Like, no one's really bats an eye at that. But the fact that a woman sort of makes a choice for herself, moderately selfishly, um, is not really a story that gets told a lot, particularly one with a sort of positive ending at the end of it. I mean, it's really important. No one really tells you this, but it's really important for you to thrive as a parent. You have to be in a space where you can thrive, because then you can demonstrate thriving, which is the only thing a child wants to see.
Yeah.
But I think so much that we just get stuck in a survival zone, which is hard to sort of embody joy and passion and creativity and, thriving. And so I like that she makes a choice that could be considered sort of like a bad mom move.
Yeah.
But then ends up kind of bringing her family together because of it.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think it's really
100%.
bold.
Yeah. I mean, and you're 100% right. Every third indie movie in like the 90s is the bored dad who like takes off to go do a thing. And like, it's okay. He's got to go do a thing. Let him go do his thing. Who cares? And
Yeah.
no one bats an eye. And it is true. Like even knowing, that this isn't going to be that type of movie, there is still that an immediate like, wait, what's she doing? Which is, I think, just how cinematic language has trained us to be like, oh, mother on screen is good mother. Dad with a past is always bad dad. Like you have to sort of
Yeah, it's
renegotiate how
flipping
you.
the head on all of that, and then sort of the ex-con comes and
Yeah,
takes care of the kids. I mean, it's all of these things, but it's allowing like a lot of the sort of the bias to disappear a little
yeah,
bit, and to
oh, yeah,
sort of allow like every human to just kind of reclaim the space that they need to reclaim, and I think within the masculine there's a lot of reclaiming work to be done as well.
yeah. And as a mother yourself, I'm sure like you said, could be deemed a moderately selfish choice, but you're also you're balancing out how the character being truthful to the character, but also you know if I'm sure in the back of your head there's like, well, would I do that in that situation? You have that sort of thing. And as someone who I
Yeah,
think,
well, then there I am doing it. I mean, because
yeah,
it was the first film back that I had really done a leading role. I was still on the end of my breastfeeding journey when I did that film. I'm like spending, 16 to 18 hours away from my son every day, which I had never done. So I was also in a space where I'm feeling like that bad mom, thing where I'm like, oh, I'm just like, am I doing this? Am I really going to like pursue my dreams? Which means being away from my child, and how ugly that feels, but how liberating it can feel, and just like all of the clumsiness in between. I mean, I definitely had my own moments of that may not, it wasn't exactly the same, but it
yeah,
was enough to kind of feel a similar bond, and then also a protection of wanting to do this right, and also knowing that like there's a catharsis in this of being like, hey, this is hard.
yeah,
Isn't this hard? Let's look at it and talk about it, because if it's hard, it means that everyone's probably felt it. We just haven't had enough space to transcend it yet.
totally. And I think what you said earlier about like, if you thrive, your child sees that it's possible and it's something that they're more likely to do. I mean, that's something I see, if I look at your Instagram and you and your son are, doing things, just the way you speak about it and the way you present it, I think it makes perfect sense in a way that you would be like, well, of course I'm going to go back to work because this
Yeah.
is what you do. Like you'd find the thing that you love and you do it. Or if it's not that, if you need to go to work because you need to provide, whatever the reason is, these are things that are part of life. And if you don't embrace it, you're going to resent it. And I think, one of the things you want to pass on the most is that, feel good about yourself and feel good about life.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, definitely feel good about yourself, but also just like, you know, anything that's sort of stigmatized needs to be re-talked about. We
Yeah.
need new language for it. And so, yeah, I think my son's into I mean, it's hard for him to understand like me working and stuff, but he gets it.
Yeah.
He gets it now in a much easier way. I mean, he's 5, so it's different than when he was like 2.5 when I did this
Yeah.
film.
No,
So it's definitely a challenge. I think every parent goes through it. It's a very universal theme. What is too much time away? What is the right amount?
yeah. And I'm sure it's different for everyone. It's an individual thing like everyone else. And I think one of the things that I like so much about this film is I've loved your work for so long that it feels like a natural evolution, but there is like I think a very interesting change in the type of work obviously when you're younger you're going to make different films because they're offering you very different films.
Mhm.
Did your taste also change? Like obviously in your teenage years you're offered teenage roles and you pick the best you can of a somewhat limited batch. But as you got into a place where you can play, adult's a very reductive word, but like you can play almost anyone now. Did
Mhm.
what you were looking for change, or was it still okay? This feels right, and I trust that I'm right.
I mean, I think probably the conundrum of me is that I've never looked for anything,
Hmm.
like I've never been like, oh, I'm gonna do a musical. I'm gonna do a thing. I just take it as it comes. And, honestly, it's whatever terrifies me is kind of the kind of roles that I choose.
Yeah.
And whether it be like, oh, it's so terrifying to play someone completely different than I've ever been, or to play the villain, or to explore this, where I feel like the older I get, I fell into doing a lot of things that were very different than me. Somehow, like Hunger Games, I was playing all these villains, very like angry women, and I was like, okay, this is cool. I don't, what is this? And now I feel like, particularly after doing Lorelei, Antebellum, and then Stardust, it felt like a lot of character work. That there's like, now I'm noticing that there's a fear space, excitement space of what it would feel like to be very stripped down on film, to play something very similar, and to play something that would be very, to see how much I could reveal of just being,
And it shows.
So we'll see.
Yeah, I think it shows too, because I mean, even for me, I love Life as a House. I love The Go-Getter, like things that are like completely different, like roles that, you would never assume would be the same person. But when you look at the entirety of her career, you're like, okay, that makes sense. That would be the thing that would fit at that point. And just, like, I think this is a really good reminder. And Stardust is also, I think, very small. The idea of like, if you're doing something that's not, $100 million movie, the camera is going to be on you, and it's going to be about whether or not you can do the job. And it's always a great reminder about, oh no, she's a great actress. Like, this is exactly what, you should be doing, even though there's nothing wrong with like the Hunger Games or when Zack Snyder calls or whatnot. They're, your son's got to eat
your
too.
friends call, I tend to say yes. There's some filmmakers that I would, they say, they're like, let's do it. And I'm like, of course. It almost sometimes doesn't matter about what the work is, because I think you form relationships and you have a shorthand with certain filmmakers, and it's just fun. I mean, you train an army. Why would you hire another one? Like, if you're really good at working with someone. But yeah, it's true. I mean, when you're a teenager, you do teenage roles. When I was a woman in my 20s, I was playing those roles. And now, after taking 3 years off, when I was like, just had turned 30, I'm sort of now re-entering it, being like, okay, there's a whole other world out there with like parts, and I can play, upward to 40 and down, it's like, I can sort of really play all these different things. And I feel like it's, it might be the most interesting time of my career,
I think at this point, especially for someone who's worked for so long, there's what filmmaker hasn't seen something that you're in. So it's, I think, in a way easier also to be like, oh, you've grown up to them. So like, whether it's, accurate or not, you're like, I feel like the same person, or I feel completely different. They're seeing a change. So maybe that presents a role that they wouldn't have thought you for, So there's always that little bit.
I mean, you always have to fight for it. I mean, nothing's ever just given, particularly, I think, on a path of, I've never wanted to be a giant whatever, I feel like for me, my greatest goal would just be character actor. Like, I want to be able to kind of dive in and never have anyone have a preconceived understanding of what I should be doing. Like, it's not going to be like a Jena Malone vehicle, like, I just feel like I want them to not even know who they're watching or what they're watching. So in that realm, there's still always things you have to prove and things you have to kind of remind people that you can do. But I like that. I mean, nothing should be given. It's like, if I made good pancakes 2 weeks ago, doesn't mean I'm going to make good pancakes today. Like, I might mess up, I might need a reminder. I might need a refresher, or rather, pancakes might not be the thing that I should be making anymore. So yeah, I like it. I mean, it's a strange thing. I think a lot of people talk about it, like, growing older as an actor, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know. I find it thrilling. It's like there's way more dangerous things that you can take on. And the danger is really where you can learn the most,
And especially when you're not concerned with, oh, I got to be in the thing with the big poster that's going to play on, like, 4th of July and get the couples. Like, if it's not really pegged that it needs to play to a market in a certain way, yeah,
Yeah.
you can go like, okay, well, show me what you got. Like if it's going to engage me and I can do the job and you want me to be there and we can make this work, that means anything could be on the table. And I think that's where the way more exciting work comes from. Like movie stars are great. Like you need them because they make you feel good. But I'm way more excited when I go like, okay, she's in the movie. That's a sign of quality. But I also have no idea what type of movie it's going to be if I just hear the title. Like because you can
Yeah.
be in everything and anything.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, I like it. I don't know. I also feel like I've been doing it like, I mean, I guess it's like 26 years now. So it's long enough that if I wanted to do something completely fucking different, it doesn't really matter. Because I feel like I've already pretty much done everything I probably would need to do in it, where like um yeah, so any shift of like, wow, all right, well, maybe I am gonna do these things, or I don't know. I think there's also a shift. I'm not as punk rock as I used to be in the sense of like I'm a parent. Like I gotta fucking get food on the table. Like I need to. I don't want to uproot my kid and like go move to Romania for 8 months. Like I there is a different type of processing mechanism of like what I want to do as an actor and what I don't want to do anymore. Um,
Oh yeah.
so, but it's cool. Limitations are fun. It
Yeah. I
makes
mean,
you grow.
yeah, no, I'm sure at a certain point you're like 6 months somewhere where the camera's rolling 18 hours a day. Let's do it. Great. Now, oh, you're making a movie 20 minutes away from the house and I'll be done at 5.
Yeah, no,
Ooh,
I just want to
tell
get
me
on
more.
a series and like,
Yeah,
pick up my kid from school after,
exactly.
sort of that's the vibe.
Yeah. As you like you had said, like I could walk away and be happy, and have complete and felt like I had a full career. Have you ever thought about also like directing?
Yeah, I have. I want to. I've been writing some stuff. I'm not ready to. I want to wait until my son's older.
Yeah.
It's such an all-encompassing type of role that you have to take on. I might start doing some episodic stuff, just kind of tiny things. But I think that that avenue is going to happen more. I think when my son is like maybe in high school, like in
Yeah.
10 years.
Oh yeah, then
Just
he's gonna be
like,
like, please leave. I have a party to go to, or I want to have a party here. I need you not here.
well, like I think when he wants less to do with me is
Yeah.
when I'll probably want to start having more to do with that.
Yeah, that'll be your cue. Like, oh, he's that teenager now. Okay, well,
I
we'll
don't know.
make it work.
I mean, he likes filmmaking. He wants to be a part of it. So it's just, I don't know. I'm just cautious of like signing on to a thing where it's like 9 months of work,
Yeah.
It's like
Well,
three
yeah, I mean,
posts, three
nothing.
filming, three pre, it's a lot of work and I'm just not ready to be away from him that much yet.
Yeah,
you know?
nothing is more fun than him. So why would you
Yeah.
choose the thing that's not as good? You wait until, you know, he's a fully formed person who's like, I have my own interests that don't involve you sometimes.
Yeah. He's like,
Please
get out of
have
here,
your own
mom.
interests.
Like, go
Yeah,
do that. And it's like, okay. But
yeah,
it's cool because it's allowed me to not get anxious about that. And then also, I think that for me, every director that I really care about and I love and am inspired by are also writers. So it's kind of allowed me a space to be like, honey, just dive into the writing, like
yeah.
give yourself time. And I love that you don't have to be a certain age to be a great director.
Yeah.
You can
Okay.
just be whoever, really.
Oh yeah. And just to wrap up, one, congratulations again. I think this is a great movie. And as I
Thank you.
said, I love almost everything you're in. Go Gators a pretty deep cut, I know.
That's so cool. I'm glad you like that film. I
I
haven't thought
I
about that in a while.
I saw it like in the city just on a like Friday, and this was before I had press screenings and things like that. But I was like one of 3 people in the theater because it was like a Wednesday or something, and I was like,
Yeah, and it was
this
just
must be what
a
press
small
screenings are
film,
like.
honey. It's okay.
Yeah. But I'm just so when
Mhm.
you had your like last year of like we're all kind of just sitting around doing nothing.
Uh-huh.
What kept you sane? And do you ever think about stuff you've done or watch the movies you've been in? I know it's a weird thing. Some people love it and some people can't stand it.
I do. I watch them, but mostly I watch them in the moment of when they're being released. But I think that some films come back. I think I'm definitely in a space where you become a parent and there's like nostalgic cues that are lessons of learning for your child. So I was like, what films am I going to show him?
Yeah.
Like what am I going to share with him? And also like, it's fascinating that, I think The Go-Getter, I was like 18 or something. It's just fascinating to have these little time capsules of
Yeah.
like yourself, and I think that Yeah, I think about them more now than I ever have in a way of just
Right.
like, huh, I
Where
wonder
he's
what that
gonna
film is.
where he's gonna stumble on them, be like, oh, I like sci-fi. I'm gonna watch Contact. Oh, mom?
Yeah, like I know it's like, do I show him or does his friends show him? I mean, when do I show him the scene, in Neon Demon, or do we just like rule it out of the house? I mean, I don't know. There's like a whole.
I think that one you probably have to tell him exists so he doesn't accidentally see it, just in case.
Yeah,
Like,
I
so
don't
there's a
know. I
couple
don't
of
live in
things
the
that,
internet. You
yeah,
never know.
well, yeah, don't Google this unless this is what you want to see. Just throwing that out there. Uh,
Yeah, we'll see.
yeah, exactly. But congratulations again, and like I said, big fan. So this was
Cool.
was really awesome to do, and I can't wait to see what comes next.
Yeah. Thanks, Joey. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.